There is a jar sitting in the Cairo Museum right now that is over 3,000 years old. Inside that jar is food. Real food. Food that archaeologists confirmed was still chemically intact and theoretically edible. And it is not some ancient freeze-dried military ration or a carefully engineered survival product. It is something you can buy at your local grocery store for under $10. That item is on this list. But here's what makes this video different from every other stockpile list you have seen. Every single item here does not just last a long time. Under the right conditions, several of them last essentially forever. And a few of them, you are almost certainly throwing away too early. The average American home contains roughly 3 days of usable food, not survival rations, just normal eating. After that, you are entirely dependent on a supply chain that the last several years have proven is far more fragile than anyone wanted to believe. This video is not a doom spiral. No bunkers, no disappearing into the woods. Just a practical, grounded case for filling your pantry with foods that genuinely do not expire and become extraordinarily valuable the moment normal supply gets unreliable. 18 items. Counted down from useful to genuinely legendary. Let's get into it. White vinegar. Almost everyone owns it. Almost no one stocks enough of it. That is the gap this entry is here to close. White vinegar is built around acetic acid, which is inherently self-preserving. Bacteria cannot grow in it. Mold cannot establish itself. A bottle purchased today and one sitting in a cabinet since 2011 are functionally the same product. It does not expire. It just waits. And here's where most people undersell it badly. White vinegar is not a salad dressing ingredient. It is a food preservation tool. Pickling vegetables in white vinegar extends their functional life without any refrigeration required. It cleans surfaces, neutralizes odors, softens fabrics, and deters insects. One item covering that many categories simultaneously is exactly what a constrained pantry needs. Buy gallon jugs. Not the small decorative bottles that charge 3 times the per ounce price for a prettier label. White vinegar has been in your cabinet the whole time. You just have not been buying enough of it. Cornstarch. This one surprises people every time, and that surprise is exactly why it belongs on the list. Pure cornstarch, kept dry and sealed away from moisture and humidity, lasts indefinitely. There's no biological mechanism for it to spoil, no fats to go rancid, no proteins to break down, no sugars to ferment. Kept in an airtight container in a cool environment, cornstarch is essentially inert. It simply waits. The utility in a limited supply cooking environment is significant and underappreciated. Cornstarch is the primary thickening agent for soups, stews, gravies, and sauces. Without it, or something like it, a pot of canned vegetables and broth is a thin, watery liquid. Add a tablespoon of cornstarch, and it becomes something that actually resembles a meal. That transformation is disproportionate to the ingredient's size and cost. It also works as a dry shampoo substitute, a natural anti-chafing powder, and a binding agent in baking when eggs are unavailable. In a household navigating an extended disruption, that range of applications from one lightweight, inexpensive ingredient is exactly the kind of utility that matters. Buy it in the largest container available. Transfer it into an airtight sealed container when you get home. Store it away from moisture. That is genuinely the entire strategy. And yes, it will still be there working perfectly a decade from now. Pure vanilla extract. Here is one that almost gets left off lists like this, and it should not be. Pure vanilla extract, the real kind, not the imitation version, contains a minimum of 35% alcohol by volume. That is not a coincidence. That alcohol content is what makes pure vanilla extract shelves stable for an indefinitely long period. The flavor compounds extracted from vanilla beans are preserved and protected by the alcohol base. Stored in a cool, dark location with the lid on tight, pure vanilla extract does not go bad. It does not weaken over time. It actually continues to develop in flavor complexity the longer it sits. That last part is worth sitting with for a second. One of the items on this list actively improves with age. Most foods tolerate long storage. Pure vanilla extract rewards it. The practical case is straightforward. In any extended stretch of cooking from a limited pantry, baking becomes one of the most important morale tools available. Bread, simple cakes, oatmeal cookies from whatever you have on hand. Flavor matters more than people expect when meal variety is restricted. A few drops of vanilla extract transforms a basic bowl of oatmeal. It transforms a simple cake made from pantry staples into something that feels like a genuine occasion. Buy the pure extract, not the imitation. The imitation version is made from synthetic compounds that do not have the same stability or flavor depth. The price difference is real, but the performance gap justifies it. And since it lasts indefinitely and improves with age, you are not spending more. You are investing more wisely. Baking soda. Baking soda has been on grocery store shelves since 1846. That is not a typo, 1846. It has been a pantry staple for nearly 200 years, which tells you something important about how fundamental it actually is before you even get to the shelf life conversation. Pure sodium bicarbonate stored in a sealed, airtight container lasts indefinitely as a leavening agent. It does not go stale. It does not break down. The one caveat worth knowing is that baking soda slowly absorbs moisture and odors from its surrounding environment, which is why the open box in the back of your refrigerator works as a deodorizer. That exposure reduces its leavening effectiveness over time. Keep it sealed in an airtight container and that issue disappears entirely. The utility extends well beyond baking, which is the part most people have not fully mapped out. Baking soda is an effective cleaning agent, a natural deodorizer, a mild abrasive for scrubbing surfaces, a treatment for insect stings, and a component in homemade toothpaste and dry shampoo formulations. In a disrupted household where commercial cleaning and personal care products become unavailable or expensive, baking soda quietly covers a significant number of those gaps. Buy it in bulk bags rather than the small orange boxes. The price per ounce drops dramatically and the product is chemically identical. Transfer it into airtight sealed containers when you get home. That step alone extends its storage window from months to decades. Instant coffee. Let me be direct about something right up front. This is not on the list because instant coffee is the best coffee. It is absolutely not. Any genuine coffee person would like to formally register their objection. Noted. Moving on. Instant coffee is on this list because it is one of the very few items here where emotional and psychological value align almost completely with practical functional value. And in a preparedness context, that combination is genuinely rare. Freeze-dried, vacuum-sealed instant coffee can remain viable for 20 to 25 years without meaningfully losing potency. It requires nothing beyond hot water. No grinder, no filter, no equipment of any kind. Under 2 minutes, and you have something warm, caffeinated, and remarkably grounding in the context of an environment where most normal routines have disappeared. Researchers studying extended disruption scenarios consistently identify the loss of daily routine as one of the primary drivers of psychological deterioration in affected households. Not food shortage, not physical discomfort. The loss of the small, repeated rituals that create a sense of normalcy. Coffee is one of the most deeply embedded of those rituals for a significant portion of the population. A cup of coffee in the morning, even instant coffee made on a camp stove, signals to your nervous system that the day has started in a recognizable way. The caffeine has functional utility as well. It improves alertness, supports focus under stress, and mildly suppresses appetite, which helps stretch food supplies during lean periods. Store it in sealed, airtight containers in a cool, dark location. The freeze-dried format outperforms the spray-dried version significantly in both shelf life and flavor. Buy more than you think you need. It weighs almost nothing and takes up very little space. And if things never go sideways, you have a decade of backup morning coffee. There are genuinely worse problems to have. Hard liquor. This one raises an eyebrow every time, so let's address it directly before moving on. Properly sealed spirits, vodka, rum, whiskey, bourbon, do not expire. The alcohol content, typically between 40 and 50% by volume, creates an environment where microbial growth is simply not possible. An unopened bottle of vodka stored in a cool, dark location is as stable as almost anything in this pantry. Indefinitely. Once opened, evaporation becomes a minor factor over very long periods, and oxidation can very slowly affect flavor in some spirits. But the practical shelf life of an opened bottle of hard liquor is still measured in years, not months. The case for including it goes well beyond the obvious. Hard liquor is a legitimate antiseptic for wound cleaning when medical supplies are unavailable. Vodka in particular works as a surface disinfectant and an effective odor neutralizer for fabrics. Alcohol has been used across human history as a preservative for herbal preparations and medicinal tinctures. And in a barter or community exchange environment, its value as a trading commodity is historically significant. During the Soviet collapse in the early 1990s, vodka functioned as a de facto currency in parts of Russia. That is not a hypothetical. That happened. Store sealed bottles in a cool, dark location away from temperature fluctuations. 1 or 2 bottles of a spirit you would actually use, medicinally or otherwise, represent a genuinely versatile addition to a long-term pantry. Raw cacao and dark chocolate. Nobody saw this one coming. That is exactly why it is here. High-quality dark chocolate, the kind with 70% cacao content or higher, stored properly in a cool, stable environment, remains usable for 2 to 5 years well past its printed date. Raw cacao powder, when kept sealed and away from moisture, lasts significantly longer. The high cacao content, low moisture, and minimal processing work together to slow deterioration dramatically compared to milk chocolate, which has a much shorter functional window due to its dairy content. The nutritional case is stronger than the reputation. Dark chocolate and raw cacao are dense in magnesium, iron, and antioxidant compounds. Magnesium in particular is one of the minerals most commonly depleted under chronic stress, and a genuine disruption scenario produces chronic stress almost immediately. Cacao delivers a meaningful dose. But the real argument here is psychological, and this time that framing is not a soft consideration. It is the primary point. In an extended period of restricted food variety, the psychological toll of monotony is one of the most consistent and most underestimated pressures documented in emergency research. Chocolate is one of the most universally recognized comfort foods in the world. Its effect on mood is measurable and documented. A small piece of dark chocolate in an otherwise flat day does something that an extra serving of rice simply cannot replicate. Store raw cacao in sealed, airtight containers. For chocolate bars, vacuum seal them if possible or wrap tightly in foil and keep in a cool, stable location away from temperature swings. The small space they occupy is entirely worth it. Soy sauce. This one functions almost identically to bouillon cubes in terms of what it does to the rest of your pantry, and it belongs in the same conversation for exactly that reason. Traditional soy sauce is produced through a fermentation process that has been refined over more than 2,000 years. The result is a product with a sodium content high enough to be genuinely self-preserving. An unopened bottle of soy sauce stored in a cool, dark environment can remain good for 3 years or more at room temperature. Refrigerated after opening, that window extends considerably further. Tamari, the wheat-free variation, behaves similarly and offers additional dietary flexibility. The flavor value is the main argument. Soy sauce delivers umami, the 5th basic taste, the deep, savory quality that makes food taste like food rather than sustenance. Drizzle it over plain rice and you have a meal that actually registers as satisfying. Add it to canned vegetables and broth, and the result is genuinely different from the same dish without it. In a pantry where variety is limited, umami is one of the most effective tools available for keeping meals psychologically sustainable across consecutive days. Low-sodium versions are available, but they sacrifice some of the natural preservation properties that make standard soy sauce such a stable product. For stockpiling purposes, the traditional full-sodium version is the right call. Buy it in the larger bottles. The per-ounce cost drops significantly and you will use it. Once you understand what soy sauce does to an otherwise plain meal, it becomes difficult to imagine cooking without it. Maple syrup. Pure maple syrup has a longer and more impressive shelf life than most people realize. And pure is the operative word here, because what it means has significant implications for how long the product lasts. 100% pure maple syrup, sealed and stored in a cool, dark location, remains stable for several years. The high sugar content creates an osmotic environment where bacterial and microbial growth cannot take hold. Opened and refrigerated, it lasts 1 to 2 years without quality loss. But here is the part that most people miss entirely. Pure maple syrup that has been stored sealed can develop mold on the surface if exposed to humidity or temperature fluctuations. That sounds alarming. It is not. Skim the surface, heat the syrup to a simmer briefly, return it to a clean sealed container. The syrup itself is completely unaffected. That characteristic is worth knowing because it is the kind of thing that causes people to throw away perfectly good food. The nutrition goes beyond simple sugar. Pure maple syrup contains manganese, zinc, and a range of antioxidant compounds not found in refined white sugar. It is still primarily a sweetener, but it is a more nutritionally complex one. Its value in a long-term pantry is partly flavor and partly function. It works in oatmeal, baking, marinades, and sauces. It provides rapid energy from natural sugars. And in a situation where meals have become repetitive, a drizzle of maple syrup over a simple dish creates a sensory shift that is worth more than it costs. Coconut oil. The shelf life argument for coconut oil is genuinely impressive compared to most cooking fats, and the nutritional case has real substance behind it. Unrefined virgin coconut oil stored in a sealed container at room temperature maintains quality for 2 to 5 years. Refined coconut oil, which has a slightly more neutral flavor, can push that window even further under good storage conditions. The high saturated fat content, the same property that made coconut oil a target of nutritional controversy for several decades, is precisely what makes it so shelf-stable. Saturated fats resist oxidation at a level that polyunsaturated oils simply cannot match. The chemistry that critics pointed at turns out to be the same chemistry that makes it an outstanding long-term storage product. This matters enormously in the context of a complete food reserve. Dietary fat is not optional. It is physiologically foundational. The human body cannot absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K without an adequate fat source. A pantry built around grains, legumes, and canned vegetables without a reliable fat component will produce real nutritional deficiencies within weeks regardless of total calorie intake. Coconut oil closes that gap and keeps it closed longer than most alternatives. It also functions as a skin moisturizer, a hair treatment, and a mild antimicrobial agent due to its lauric acid content. In a household managing limited resources across multiple categories, those secondary uses matter. Store it at room temperature in a sealed container away from light. It will solidify in cooler conditions. That is a physical property of the fat, not spoilage. Warm it gently and it returns to liquid. That is the entire maintenance requirement. Apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar with the mother, which is the cloudy sediment you see floating in raw, unfiltered versions, has been used medicinally and practically for over 10,000 years. That is not a marketing claim. That is history. Like white vinegar, apple cider vinegar is built on acetic acid and is inherently self-preserving. It does not expire. Stored in a sealed container away from direct light, it maintains its properties indefinitely. The mother, if present, may settle or separate over time, but shaking the bottle redistributes it without any quality loss. The functional utility goes beyond white vinegar in a few specific directions. Apple cider vinegar has documented effectiveness as a food preservative, particularly for fruits and certain vegetables. It functions as a natural household cleaner and mild antimicrobial surface treatment. There is a meaningful body of research exploring its potential effects on blood sugar regulation and digestive health, though the evidence base is still developing, and it is worth approaching those specific claims with appropriate skepticism. What is not in question is its utility as a flavor agent. Added to rice, beans, or lentils in small quantities, it provides acidity that transforms the flavor profile of otherwise flat dishes. That acidic brightness is one of the hardest things to replicate from a limited pantry, and apple cider vinegar delivers it reliably. Buy the raw, unfiltered version with the mother. Store it sealed at room temperature. It will be there, unchanged and fully functional, as long as you need it. Whole peppercorns. Most people have a jar of pre-ground black pepper in their cabinet right now that is delivering a fraction of the flavor it was capable of when it was first processed. Pre-ground pepper loses its volatile aromatic compounds within months of being ground. That gap is bigger than most people realize until they actually taste the difference. Whole black peppercorns are a fundamentally different product. The intact outer shell protects the essential oils responsible for pepper's heat and aroma indefinitely. Stored sealed and away from heat and moisture, whole peppercorns retain full potency for years, potentially decades, without meaningful degradation. Here is the part most preparedness content never mentions. Black pepper contains piperine, a compound that enhances the bioavailability of several nutrients, including certain B vitamins. Black pepper does not just improve the taste of your food. It improves the nutritional value you extract from everything else on your plate. A basic pepper mill costs under $10. Buy whole peppercorns. Store them sealed. Grind as needed. Same pepper. Completely different performance. White sugar. Pure white sugar kept dry and protected from moisture lasts indefinitely. That sentence is complete. There is no asterisk, no caveat about specific storage conditions or degradation timeline. Dry, sealed, pure white sugar does not expire. It does not break down. It does not lose sweetness or become unsafe. It simply waits for as long as you need it to. Most people frame sugar as a comfort ingredient, something for baking and coffee, pleasant but non-essential. That framing misses the most important dimension of what sugar actually does when supply becomes limited. Sugar is a natural food preservative. That is the foundational principle behind jams, fruit preserves, syrups, and candied goods that last for months without refrigeration. Sugar creates an osmotic environment that draws moisture away from microbial cells, effectively inhibiting their growth. In a context where refrigeration is unreliable or unavailable, sugar stops being a sweetener and becomes a preservation tool. That is a genuinely different function with genuinely serious implications for what else you can keep in your pantry. It is also the fastest calorie source available. When your body needs immediate fuel under physical or mental stress, simple sugars respond faster than any other macronutrient. And when meals have become repetitive, which they always do, a small addition of sweetness creates a disproportionate shift in how a meal actually feels and how willingly your appetite engages with it. Store it in sealed, airtight containers. Keep moisture away from it entirely. That is the one requirement. Meet it. and you have a preservation tool and a morale asset sitting on your shelf for decades. Salt. Salt is the most historically significant item on this entire list, and also the one most people grab without a second thought, which is a genuinely strange combination when you stop to consider it. For most of recorded human history, salt shaped entire economies. It fueled trade routes across continents. The word salary traces directly back to the Latin word for salt. Salt was not seasoning. It was compensation. It was power. It was survival compressed into a mineral compound. The storage case needs almost no explanation. Pure salt has no biological mechanism for deterioration. Kept dry, it lasts indefinitely. Not for decades. Indefinitely. Full stop. But its real value goes well beyond flavor. Salt draws moisture out of food and creates environments where bacteria cannot survive. That is the principle behind curing meat, brining fish, and fermenting vegetables. In a serious disruption, salt does not just season your food. It extends the life of everything else you have stored. One practical note: store plain, non-iodized salt. The additives in iodized versions can degrade over very long storage periods. Small detail matters a lot. Raw honey. Here it is, the item from the Cairo Museum at the very start of this video. Archaeologists recovered honey from Egyptian tombs estimated at over 3,000 years old. When tested, it was still chemically intact. Still edible. 3,000 years. Nothing else in your pantry is in the same category. Not even remotely close. The chemistry is straightforward. Honey contains almost no free moisture, so microbial growth has no viable pathway. Its natural acidity creates an environment where bacteria cannot survive. Enzymatic activity continuously produces trace amounts of hydrogen peroxide for additional antimicrobial protection. There is no biological mechanism for honey to spoil. It simply does not have one. If your honey crystallizes, do not throw it out. That is physics, not spoilage. Warm water bath, back to liquid. Done. Beyond sweetener, honey is clinically used in wound care worldwide, functions as a documented cough suppressant, and delivers rapid energy from natural sugars. Buy the largest container available. Honey purchased today will be just as usable in 30 years. Very few foods can make that claim without an asterisk. Ghee. Most people have heard of ghee. Far fewer actually understand what it is, which is a shame because what it is happens to be extraordinary. Ghee is clarified butter. Butter that has been slowly heated to remove all milk solids and water content, leaving behind pure, shelf-stable golden fat. That removal is the key transformation. Regular butter spoils because of its water and protein content. Remove those and you remove the spoilage mechanisms entirely. The result lasts 12 months or longer at room temperature in a sealed container. Some traditionally prepared ghees push 2 years without refrigeration. Regular butter, by comparison, begins degrading within 3 to 4 weeks at room temperature. That gap is not marginal. It is the difference between a cooking fat that survives a disruption and one that does not. Ghee also handles high cooking temperatures without breaking down, carries fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, and has a rich, nutty flavor that makes even simple pantry meals taste like actual food. Dried beans. Yes, dried beans at number 2. If you have spent any time in preparedness communities, you are already rolling your eyes. Beans again. Always beans. Here is why they are at number 2 and not number 14, where most lists quietly bury them. Dried beans, stored correctly in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers, remain nutritionally viable and fully edible for 25 to 30 years. 3 decades. No refrigeration. No specialized equipment. No ongoing maintenance beyond keeping them sealed and dry. That shelf life puts them in a category shared by almost nothing else in the food world. But longevity is not the primary argument. The argument for number 2 is what dried beans actually deliver when fresh food disappears. Protein, fiber, iron, complex carbohydrates, folate, potassium. In a diet built around grains and canned goods, dried beans are the single most effective way to maintain protein intake without access to fresh meat. That is not a minor nutritional footnote. Protein deficiency develops measurably over weeks and directly affects muscle maintenance, immune function, wound healing, and cognitive clarity. Dried beans address that gap directly, affordably, and with a shelf life that outlasts almost every other protein source available. Now, the palatability concern is real and worth saying out loud. Plain beans cooked in plain water are not inspiring. That is just honest. But add a bouillon cube, a splash of soy sauce, and a spoonful of ghee from this list, and they become something that actually satisfies. Buy multiple varieties: black beans, chickpeas, lentils, kidney beans. Store sealed with oxygen absorbers. 3 decades of protein. That is the argument. White rice. Every serious conversation about long-term food storage starts here. And every list that bumps it for the sake of novelty is making a mistake. White rice has been a foundational survival food across dozens of civilizations for thousands of years. Not because people ran out of better options, because it is genuinely extraordinary in ways that only become clear when you examine what it actually does under pressure. When rice is milled, the outer bran layer is removed, stripping away the natural oils inside the grain. Those oils are the primary mechanism through which most grains go rancid. Remove them and you remove the spoilage pathway entirely. Seal white rice in airtight mylar bags with oxygen absorbers and you have placed it in suspended animation. No oxygen means no oxidation. No moisture means no microbial growth. It just sits there, perfectly intact, for 25 to 30 years without meaningful quality loss. The caloric case is what locks in the number 1 position. A 50-pound bag costs roughly $30 at most wholesale retailers and contains approximately 82,000 calories. At less than 4 cents per calorie, nothing else in long-term food storage combines that cost, that caloric density, and that shelf life simultaneously. Nothing. The versatility completes the argument. White rice adapts to any cuisine, any flavor profile, any dietary requirement. Every other item on this list performs better with white rice underneath it. $30, 30 years, 82,000 calories. That is why it is number 1, and it is genuinely not close. Here is what ties all 18 of these items together. None of them are exotic. None of them are expensive. Most are sitting on grocery store shelves right now, fully stocked, at normal prices, with zero urgency from anyone around you. That ordinariness is the entire point. The moment these items become difficult to find is the moment the low-cost, easy choice has already closed. You do not want to be making this decision then. You want to have already made it. 2 items per shopping trip. Proper airtight storage when you get home. Rotate as you go. Done consistently over a few months, that habit builds a real, functional pantry buffer without drama, without a large upfront cost, and without turning into the person at the office who will not stop talking about freeze-dried food. The best time to start was years ago. The second best time is this week. Which item are you grabbing first? Drop it in the comments.